Hey guys, welcome to a new free pattern video. Today I have the Huckleberry Hat, which is just a really basic 2x2 rib hat. It's super classic. You can wear it with absolutely anything. It's super timeless and it's one of my favorite designs I've ever made. I was in Montana last year and there are huckleberry flavored things everywhere throughout Montana. It just seemed like it had a really nice flow to it to call it the Huckleberry Hat. So I hope you guys enjoy this hat as much as I do. I made about 6 or 7 of them over Christmas and they have become a real staple in my household. So I hope you guys enjoy it. For the materials for this pattern, you'll need 160 yards, 146 meters of worsted weight yarn, which is sometimes called medium number 4 in big box stores. And I believe in the UK, worsted is called Aran, and in Australia, it's called 10 ply. And for the sample, I used Yarn B Yarn ID, which is an 80/20 acrylic polyamide yarn from Hobby Lobby. And for the needles, you'll need a set of US 7 4.5 millimeter needles in the 16-inch 41 centimeter circumference, or size needed to match gauge. And you will also need a set of longer cord length needles in the same size, or DPNs, for the crown decreases. DPNs are an option, but the pattern is written for magic loop, so if you want to follow it exactly, you will need a longer cord length for that. This pattern comes in one size, which is 20 3/4 inch, 52.5 centimeters around by 11 1/4, 28.5 centimeters long. So the circumference will fit more snug than the actual circumference here because we stretched our swatch for the gauge. And also the length is easily customizable. It's made to have a very long folded brim, but if you want it shorter, all you have to do is knit fewer plain rows to make the brim shorter. And for the gauge, you're going to work in a 2x2 rib worked in the round. So you'll need to swatch in the round. To get 15.5 stitches by 26.5 rounds equals 4 inches, 10 centimeters. I stretched the swatch a little bit to get this gauge. If you have to stretch it a lot, then I suggest going up a needle size and swatching again. So in order to start this hat, you'll need a pair of 16-inch circulars. That's what we're going to use first. You'll need to cast on 81 stitches. I'm going to show you how to do an invisible join in the round, which will decrease 1 stitch. So go ahead and cast on 81 stitches and I will show you how to join in the round. Now you don't need to do a super loose cast on, but you want to make sure that it's not too tight. This hat has negative ease, which means it's slightly smaller than the actual size of your head. So you'll need to stretch it a little bit to get it on your head. So you'll want to leave yourself a tail long enough to weave in at the end. So now we're going to do an invisible join in the round. So you want to place your right needle, the one that's attached to your working yarn, on the right side. And you want to kind of make sure that nothing is twisted. So I'm placing the cast on edge, the ruffled edge here, along the inside. And as you can see here, nothing is twisted. All the stitches are lining up perfectly. So I'm going to grab a stitch marker and have that at the ready. So now we pick up our stitches and we know that they're not twisted. And with the side attached to our yarn on the right needle and the beginning of our cast on our left needle, we're going to slip the first stitch that we cast on here onto our right hand needle. So go into it from right to left and just slip it to your right hand needle. And now we need to pass the second stitch here, which is the last one that we cast on. We need to pass it over the slip stitch and off our needle. You can use your needle or you can just use your fingers. You can kind of slide them down to the tip of your right hand needle. Just pick it up, pull it over and off. And now you can pull on both the tail yarn and the working yarn to close up any hole. And now you can place a stitch marker on your right hand needle and you are ready to work in the round. So you're going to work in a knit 2, purl 2 rib all the way around for the entire hat. So you need to work in that knit 2, purl 2 rib for 60 rows. And then you will have 15 rows of decreases and your hat will be finished. So go ahead and work 60 rows of a knit 2, purl 2 rib all the way around. And every time that you get to your beginning of round marker, you just slip it as if it wasn't there and knit the next row. So go ahead and work those 60 rows and I will meet you back here for your decrease section. So now that you've done the body of your hat, it's time to do the decrease section. So the decreases will start to look like this. You kind of fold 2 columns of knit stitches into another to create this really nice top. So that's what we're going to do next. So I've been keeping track of all of my rows with these stitch markers. Every 10 rows I would place a stitch marker in the 10th row so I could keep track. But now for row 1 we're going to work a knit 2, purl 1, knit 2 together, knit 1, purl 2, and then a knit 2, purl 2 twice, knit 1, SSK, purl 1, repeat. So to begin we need to knit 2 stitches, so knit them as normal. And now we bring our yarn in between our needles to the front and we purl the next stitch. And then you bring your yarn in between your needles to the back and we're going to work a knit 2 together. So our next stitch is a purl stitch and the one after that is a knit stitch. But with a knit 2 together, we go into the second stitch from the end as if to knit it. So into the front loop of it and also into the front loop of that purl stitch. You're knitting 2 stitches at the same time. Okay, it should look like this. You're only in the front loops of the next 2 stitches and then yarn over from front to back, pull a loop through and slide off. And then you work a knit stitch and then a purl 2. So bring your yarn in between your needles to the front, purl the next 2, and then bring your yarn in between your needles to the back of your work. And now we work a knit 2, purl 2 twice. So that's a total of 8 stitches. So knit 2, yarn to the front, purl 2, yarn to the back, knit 2, yarn to the front, purl 2, yarn to the back again. So now we need to knit another stitch. So knit the next stitch. And now we work in SSK. So go into the next stitch as if you're going to knit it, but just slip it to your right hand needle. And then go into the next stitch on your left hand needle as if to purl. So into the front loop from right to left, but just slip it to your right hand needle. And now you bring your left needle into the front loops of those 2 stitches that you just slipped. Okay, so into the front loops of both from left to right, like this. Yarn over, pull a loop through, and slide those 2 off your left hand needle. And that is an SSK. It's a modified SSK, but it's the way that I like to do it. And then bring your yarn in between your needles to the front and purl the last stitch. And then you can bring your yarn in between your needles to the back. So we're going to do that 3 more times. 1 here, 1 here, and 1 here. So you should have 18 stitches from the beginning of round marker to where you are currently. So do that 3 more times until you get back to your beginning of round marker, and I will meet you back here for that. So decrease rows 2 and 3 are exactly the same. It's a repeat of a knit 2, purl 1, followed by a knit 2, purl 2 3 times, and then a knit 2, purl 1. So basically you're just knitting your knits and purling your purls. Anything that looks like a knit, like these, you would knit these 2. These are purls, so you would purl them. So just knit your knits and purl your purls for rows 2 and 3. And then for row 4, you're going to work a repeat of a knit 2 together, knit 1, purl 2, followed by a knit 2, purl 2, 2 times, and then a knit 1 SSK, ending with 64 stitches. You knit the first 2 stitches. You do this normally. And then you knit the next 2 stitches together. So you go into the front loop of both of these stitches, into the second one first, and then the one closest to the edge, like this. Yarn over from front to back, pull a loop through and slide off. And then you work a knit 1, and then you bring your yarn in between your needles to the front and you purl the next 2 stitches. Then you bring your yarn in between your needles to the back and work a knit 2, purl 2 twice. So that is 8 stitches in total. So knit 2, yarn to the front, purl 2, yarn to the back, knit 2, yarn to the front, purl 2, yarn to the back. So I worked that twice for 8 stitches, and now I work a knit 1. So knit the next stitch normally, and then I work an SSK. And again, I like a modified SSK, so I slip the next stitch as if to knit it. So go into it as if you're going to knit it, but just slip it to your right hand needle. Go into the next stitch as if you were going to purl it from right to left, and just slip it. And then you take your left hand needle and you go into the front loops of both of these 2 stitches from left to right like this. Yarn over, pull a loop through both of them, and slide off. And I like to tighten up each decrease after I do it. Not super tight or anything, but if there's a little bit of a gap, just pull on the working yarn. Go ahead and repeat that 3 more times, and you should have 64 stitches in the end. For row 5 and 6, you're just going to be working in pattern, so knit your knits and purl your purls. The actual row says work a repeat of a knit 4, purl 2, followed by a knit 2, purl 2 twice, ending with a knit 2, and then you just repeat that all the way around. And row 6 is the same as row 5. So go ahead and do that, and I'll meet you back here for row 7. So row 7 is very long-winded. It looks difficult, but it's really just written out in full, so it's longer. So to begin, we work a knit 1. So we knit our first stitch normally, and then we're going to work our repeat. So our repeat that we're going to work 3 times through is a knit 2 together, knit 1, purl 2, knit 2, purl 2, knit 2, purl 2, knit 1, SSK. So we work a knit 2 together. We've done this before. We go into the next 2 stitches, into the front loops of both of them at the same time, like this, yarn over, pull through, slide off. And did you see how I tightened my stitch up there at the end? I do that with all of my decreases. And then we work a knit 1, and then a purl 2, and then a knit 2, purl 2, knit 2, purl 2. So we're knitting our knits and purling our purls for the next 8 stitches. So knit 2, purl 2, knit 2, purl 2. And you want to end with the yarn in the back of your work. And then we work a knit stitch, and then we work an SSK. So we slip one as if to knit, slip one as if to purl, into the front loops of both of them, yarn over, pull through, slide off. And that was your repeat. So you work that 2 more times for a total of 3 times all the way through. So go ahead and do that, and I'll meet you back here for the final few stitches. Something that you might find helpful is for the last decrease of my repeat, so the SSK at the very end of what's in parentheses, I put a stitch marker in that SSK so I can go back and be like, this was the first repeat, this was the second in between these 2 markers, and the third was in between these 2 markers. So 1, 2, 3. And now I know that I'm ready to work the final bit. We need to work a knit 2 together. So go into the next 2 stitches and knit them as if they were 1. And you want to be sure to tug on that yarn to close up any holes if you're getting anything after that decrease. And now we work a knit 1, purl 2. So knit the next stitch, yarn to the front, purl 2, yarn to the back, and work a knit 2, purl 2 twice. So that's 8 total stitches. So knit 2, yarn to the front, purl 2, knit 2, yarn to the front, purl 2, yarn to the back. So I have 2 more stitches left before my beginning of round marker. So we actually need 1 additional stitch after the marker, so into our next row. So what we're going to do is we're going to knit the next stitch normally, and then we're going to slip the next stitch as if to knit, so into the front loop as if you're going to knit it, but just slip it. Remove your beginning of round marker, slip the next stitch as if to purl, so into the front loop from right to left. Replace your stitch marker, your beginning of round marker, replace it on your left hand needle. And now these 2 stitches that we slipped, we're going to work in SSK. So we've slipped them. Now we just need to bring our left needle into the front loops of both of them. Yarn over, pull a loop through, and slide off. And you should now have 56 stitches on your needle. For row 8, you just are going to knit your knits and purl your purls again. So it's a repeat of a knit 2, purl 2 3 times, and then a knit 2, and you repeat that all the way around. And then for row 9, which is our next decrease row, it's a repeat of a knit 2 together, purl 2, and then knit 2, purl 2 twice, ending with an SSK. So we're going to repeat that all the way around, and we will have 48 stitches in the end. These are optional. I just kind of kept them there at the end of my repeat, so it just is a little bit of a good reminder. Begin with a knit 2 together, so into the next 2 stitches as if to knit, yarn over, pull through, slide off. The next 2 stitches are just normal purl stitches. Yarn to the front, purl them, yarn to the back, and work a knit 2, purl 2 twice. So that's a total of 8 stitches. So knit 2, yarn to the front, purl 2, yarn to the back, knit 2, yarn to the front, purl 2, and then you work in SSK. So slip the next stitch as if to knit, slip the next as if to purl, into the front loops of both of them at the same time, yarn over, pull a loop through, and slide off. So go ahead and do that all the way around, and I'll meet you back here for row 10. So it's getting a little bit small on my 16-inch circulars. This is the point where I'm going to switch to magic loop. So I have a set of needles that are the same needle size as my current ones, but the cord length is longer. So you want something 24 to 32 inches is probably great. You can do any length that's longer than that too. It doesn't matter if all you have on hand is a 40-inch, that will work too. So if you've never done magic loop, it's a lot easier than it sounds. So I'll walk you through the basics, but I have a full video on it if you just want a rundown in slow motion. But I'll just give you the quick basics here. So here I have the needle of my new cord length. So I'm at the beginning of round split. I can remove my beginning of round for now, and I'm actually going to place a stitch marker right at the beginning of my round. And I can remove these other ones because I don't really need them to help me keep track anymore. If you didn't place any, then don't worry about that. You can also tie a piece of string or something in the front of your fabric here. So we're going to place 25 stitches on our front needle and 23 on our back needle. If you've never done magic loop, don't worry, I'll walk you through it. You can knit these off onto your new needle or slip them. So I'm going to slip as if to purl from right to left into the front loop only, and I'm going to slip 25 onto my new needle. So this is my new needle right here. It's connected to a longer cord, and this is part of my 16-inch circular needle. So I'm slipping off of my 16-inch onto my 32-inch, and I'm just sliding them over my left needle. So remember to slide 25. Now if you find that the crowns of your hat are often a little bit too loose or have holes in them because your decreases are too loose, you can always go down a size or two in needle. So I'm using a US 7, 4.5 millimeter, but you could always go down to a US 6 or US 5 even if you find that the crown of your hat's too loose. I don't usually find that to be much of a problem with mine, so I stick with the same needle size. I have 25 stitches here, so I'm just going to pull on the new cord length needle until the other needle appears over here. So now I have my 16-inch cord that has these stitches and my 32-inch cord that has these front stitches. So now we need to turn our work. So just flip it like this. This is our 16-inch right here. So I want to slide them off of our 16-inch onto our new cord length. I take my needle and I slip the remaining 23 stitches onto my new needle. Okay, 16-inch circulars. I'm done with those. And now I have my new cord length, and it's split kind of in half. So we're going to flip our work again. So turn it like this. So I know that this is the beginning of our round here, and now I'm ready to work row 11. So magic loop is split into two needles. This is like needle A stitches here that are closest to me, and these back here are needle B stitches. So what we need to do is kind of shimmy up most of our stitches that are on needle A into our closer needle, and then we pull out the back needle. And I leave a little bit of room at the end, but I want enough cord length on the right that this is comfortable. Row 11 is a knit 1 followed by a repeat of a purl 1, knit 2 together, knit 1, purl 2, knit 1, SSK, purl 1, knit 2 3 times. And then you work a purl 1, knit 2 together, knit 1, purl 2, knit 1, SSK, purl 1, knit 1. We knit the first stitch normally, right? We just go into the front loop of it. Our yarn is attached to the back stitches here, so we just yarn over from front to back, pull a loop through, and slide off. And now we bring our yarn in between our needles to the front of our work and go into the next stitch as if to purl, so from right to left. And what I like to do with every second stitch that I work on each needle, I pull tight. So my needle's already into the stitch and I just pull tight. And then I yarn over from front to back, pull through, slide off. And I do that so that there's not a big gap here in between our two needles. Now that we've purled one, we bring our yarn in between our needles to the back and work a knit 2 together. So into the front loops of the next 2 stitches, yarn over, pull through, slide off. And then work a knit 1 followed by a purl 2, and then a knit 1, and then an SSK. So slip 1 as if to knit, slip 1 as if to purl, into the front loops of both, yarn over, pull through, slide off. Purl the next stitch, yarn to the back, and knit 2. And that is our repeat. So I'll walk you through the entire row this time since it's new. So we need to work the repeat that's in parentheses again. So yarn to the front, purl 1, yarn to the back, knit 2 together, knit 1, yarn to the front, purl 2, yarn to the back, knit 1, and then we work an SSK, so slip as if to knit, slip as if to purl, into the front loops of both, yarn over, pull through, slide off. Yarn to the front, purl 1, yarn to the back, and knit 2. So there we have it. That is the end of our second repeat of what's in parentheses. So we still need to work it one more time, and then the remainder of our row. So we worked half our stitches, and these are on our needle A. We can go ahead and turn our work, so just flip it like this. And now you need to slide the stitches onto your closer needle. This is my closer needle, they're on the cord. So I just need to push the cord and slide those stitches up onto the needle, like this. And now the yarn's attached to our back needle. We need to pull out that back needle until you have a little bit left at the end and enough to work with on the right side. So now we grab the yarn from the back and we're ready to work our final repeat. Bring your yarn in between your needles to the front and purl the next stitch. Then bring your yarn in between your needles to the back and we're going to knit 2 together. So insert your needle into the front loops of the next 2 stitches and then pull tight with the working yarn because you want to close up any gap. So pull tight and then yarn over and pull it through to complete the knit 2 together. And then knit 1, yarn to the front, purl 2, yarn to the back, knit 1, SSK, so slip as if to knit, then as if to purl, into the front loops and work them together. Yarn to the front, purl 1, yarn to the back, knit 2. So we're done working what's in parentheses. So then we work a purl stitch and a knit 2 together, and then a knit 1, yarn to the front, purl 2, knit 1, and then an SSK, so slip as if to knit, then as if to purl, and knit them together. Yarn to the front, purl 1, yarn to the back, knit 1. And that is the end of row 11. You should have 40 stitches left on your needles. So after you finish row 11, we need to turn our work, so just flip it like this. We need to push our stitches that are in front onto the needle. And then we can pull out the back needle until we have enough room at the end and enough room to work with on the right side. For row 12, it's just another decrease row. So it's a knit 1 followed by a repeat of a knit 2 together, knit 1, purl 2, knit 1, SSK, knit 2, which you work 3 times, and then a knit 2 together, knit 1, purl 2, knit 1, SSK, knit 1, and that gives you 32 stitches in the end. So knit the first stitch, and then we work a knit 2 together. We take our needle into the front loops of the next 2 stitches, and because this is the second stitch that we're working, we need to pull tight on our working yarn. Not super tight that you're going to snap the yarn or anything, but just enough that you're going to close any gap in between your needles. So then we can yarn over, pull a loop through, and slide off, finishing your knit 2 together. And then you work a knit 1 and a purl 2, then a knit 1, then an SSK, so slip as if to knit, slip as if to purl, and knit them together through the back loop. And then we knit 2, and then the process repeats itself. So knit 2 together, knit 1, purl 2, knit 1, and then we SSK, so slip as if to knit, slip as if to purl, and work those 2 stitches together. And then we just knit 2 normally. We're done with half of our row, so we can go ahead and turn our work And every time we turn our work, we need to slide the stitches in the front onto our needle. And then we need to pull out the back needle so that we can start knitting. So we need to work our repeat one more time. So work a knit 2 together. And then we go into the next stitch to knit it, pull on the working yarn to tighten up any gap, and knit it normally. And then we purl 2. And then we knit the next stitch. Then you work an SSK. And then you knit 2. And that's it for your repeats. So we just need to do the final remaining stitches. So knit the next 2 stitches together. And then we knit 1. And then we bring our yarn to the front and purl 2. Yarn to the back and knit 1. And then we work an SSK. And knit the final stitch. It should look something like this. You can see in the very middle of each half of your row that the columns of knit stitches are converging. So at this point you should have 32 stitches. So we can go ahead and turn our work. Slide your stitches onto your closer needle and pull out your back needle, and you're ready for row 13. So for decrease row 13, we're getting down to the final few now. So we work a knit 1, knit 2 together, followed by a repeat of a purl 2, knit 1, SSK, knit 2 together, knit 1, which you work 3 times, and then a purl 2, knit 1, SSK. With our stitches on our front needle, we're going to knit the first stitch normally, and then you go into the next 2 stitches and knit them together. So insert your needle, pull tight on the yarn to close any gap, yarn over, pull through, slide off. And then you work a purl 2, knit 1, SSK, knit 2 together, and then a knit 1. And then we work what's in parentheses again, so purl 2, knit 1, SSK, and now we need to work a knit 2 together and then a knit 1, but we only have 1 stitch left, right? So what we can do is we can just pull on this left needle, just gently pull on it, and once it pops out straight, you have transferred that stitch to the other side. So go ahead and turn your work. Slide those stitches up onto your closer needle, pull out the back needle, and we need to finish our repeat. So we need to work a knit 2 together and then a knit 1 to finish our second repeat. So knit the first 2 stitches together, and then knit 1. And then we work that repeat one more time, so purl 2, knit 1, SSK, knit 2 together, knit 1, purl 2, knit 1, SSK. So knit 1 and then SSK to end it. So now you should have 24 stitches, and I have 12 on each needle. So I can go ahead and turn my work, slide those stitches up onto the closer needle, pull out the back needle, and you're ready to work row 14. So we're down to our final 2 rows. For decrease row 14, we're going to work a knit 2 together, purl 2, SSK all the way around, and that will give us 16 stitches. Begin with a knit 2 together, yarn over, pull through, yarn in between your needles to the front, insert into the next stitch as if to purl it and pull tight on the yarn, and then purl that stitch and the next one. Yarn to the back, SSK, so slip as if to knit, slip as if to purl, into the front loops, and SSK. And then we repeat that all over again. So knit 2 together, purl 2, and then an SSK. Turn our work, slide the stitches onto your closer needle, pull out the back needle, work a knit 2 together, purl 2, SSK. If you find at the beginning and end of the rows that you can't get your needle all the way into that stitch, you can go into just the tip of it, yarn over, pull through, and then when you pull it through, you resize it onto your right needle, and then you slide off if that's a little bit easier. And then you purl 2, remembering to pull a little bit tighter after that second stitch, and then an SSK, a knit 2 together, purl 2, and an SSK. It should look like this, and you should have 16 stitches left, 8 on each needle. So go ahead and turn your work. Slide your stitches onto your closer needle and pull out the back needle, and you're ready to work row 15. So row 15, you're going to have to do a little bit of moving around. So you're going to knit the first stitch, and then you're going to move that stitch to your other needle, and then you're going to work a repeat of a purl 2, knit 2 together across the row, and your last knit 2 together will be part of that first stitch that you knit. So if that doesn't make any sense, I'll walk you through it. So we knit the first stitch as normal, but now you're just going to pull on your right hand needle until that stitch moves to the other half of your stitches. And now we're going to work a purl 2 together, knit 2 together all the way across. So yarn to the front, and if you've never done a purl 2 together, it's the same thing as a knit 2 together, but just for purling. So into the front loops of the next 2 stitches like this. Yarn over from front to back and pull that loop through both of them. And then slide those 2 stitches off your left hand needle. And then we work a knit 2 together. So into the next 2 stitches as if to knit, pull on the yarn a little bit and knit them together. And then yarn to the front and purl 2 together. And now we need to do another knit 2 together, but we only have 1 stitch here. So we go ahead and pull on the left hand needle, and that stitch moves to the other half. So we can go ahead and flip our work. It looks a little bit wonky, but we can fix this. So we slide the stitches up onto our closer needle, and then making sure that our yarn is not twisted. Coming out of that last stitch, we pull out the back needle, and then we work a knit 2 together because we needed to finish that. So knit 2 together, yarn in between your needles to the front and purl 2 together. Yarn to the back, knit 2 together. Yarn to the front and purl 2 together. And now we need to do one final knit 2 together. So this last stitch here is the first one that we knit at the beginning of the row, and now we're using it in our final knit 2 together. And now you should only have 8 stitches left, and it's time to close our hat. So you can go ahead and turn your work, slide those stitches that are closest to you on your needle, and you can leave them like that for now, and I will show you how to close your hat. So now that we have just a few stitches left, it's time to close the top of the hat. You'll need a pair of scissors and a yarn needle. Go ahead and cut yourself 10 to 12 inches of yarn just to be safe, and thread it through a yarn needle. What we're going to do is, going into the first stitch of our beginning of round needle, we're going to go into the first stitch on our needle from left to right with our yarn needle, like this, and we can slide it off and pull the yarn through at the same time. So into it as if to purl from right to left, slide off, pull the needle through. And now that I'm done with one needle, I'm going to pull the end that I can see so that they slide onto the other needle, and then turn my work. And we do this because we want the tip of our needle right here to be closest to our tail yarn. If the needle point was over here, it wouldn't work. That's why we slide it down, and then we just continue the process into it as if to purl, pull the yarn through. You can do multiple at a time. Just be careful that your yarn doesn't wrap around your needle like it just did for me. And there we have it. So we have just moved all of our stitches onto our waste yarn. So there's a tiny hole at the top. We're just going to pull until that hole closes. And now I kind of have to fold the brim up a little bit just to make this easier. So here's the hole right here. We're going to take our yarn needle and go through that hole to the wrong side of our work and pull it through. And then you can turn your work inside out. And again, pull tight to close up that hole. This right here is our hole. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go around in a circle, picking up those final stitches once again, but also picking up a stitch or two on the outside. Here, it doesn't matter if you go clockwise or counterclockwise, it doesn't matter. So this is a stitch that was not one of my bind off stitches, not one of my final ones, okay? So I'm just going to pull my yarn through it. And now I'm going to go through a couple of those final stitches. And I pull tight after each one. And now I'm going to grab a part of a different stitch that was not one of my final ones, pull through. So these stitches are like a row or two below. And then I continue kind of going around in a circle. And I do this a few times. So I'm going to grab a different stitch and then kind of just grab a few of those final bind off stitches, pull through, pull tight. And I do that just a couple times. So I've made it around in a circle once, and I'm going to do it one more time. If you're adding a pom-pom, you can add it now. You can just thread back through the middle, go through the pom-pom to connect it, and then come back and do this step. But there we go. I've gone through it twice. I really don't think this is going anywhere. I think it's nice and secure. And now I've closed the top and woven in my ends. So I can cut a short tail. You could cut it closer if you like, but since this is the inside of my work, I don't really care. This is what it looks like from the right side. Nice and secure. You cannot see a hole at the top really. So I'm going to remove my stitch marker. Don't need that anymore. And now I just need to weave in my cast on tail. Typically when you're knitting something, you want to weave the tail on the wrong side of your work, right? Because the right side's going to be showing. And if you did not do a folded brim, that's exactly what you want to do. But see here, I'm going to have a folded brim. So here's my cast on. I'm going to fold this up. So this is the wrong side of my work actually, and this is the right side. So the wrong side is showing, so I don't want to weave it in on the wrong side, because that's the part that I'm going to see. So if I unfold it, thread my cast on tail through a yarn needle, I'm gonna go up this column of knit stitches a little ways, and then I'm going to get it stuck in here. I go through the very bottom of my nearest knit column. Here's a knit stitch in my knit column, right? It has a left and a right side. I'm going to go into just the left side, diagonally like that. And then I go up to the next one above it on the left side, and I'm just going to do this for about an inch or so. So I've gone up a bit and I pull on it, and then I pull vertically just to kind of let it settle. That is not good enough. Don't cut it here and leave it like that. It will potentially unravel. So what we're going to do instead is we're going to get it caught up in these purl stitches. So if we look next to where our yarn is attached to currently, we can see a horizontal bar here. And if we follow it, it creates kind of a loop. We want to mimic this. So we're going to follow this strand right here. So this strand goes into this loop here. So we go from bottom to top and follow that. And then it goes in an upside down U right here. So we go up on the right side like that, down on the left side, and then back through that first loop that we came down through. So we just mimicked that stitch, and we're going to do it one more time. We're going to go one over. So this strand right here goes through this loop, and then it creates a loop, so we want to do that too. So up on the right side, down on the left, and then down through that first loop that we came through. And now I'm going to split a stitch. I'm going to split these two stitches. So that just means that instead of going underneath a full strand of yarn, I'm going to go through just part of it, like 1 ply or 2 plies, and go up. And I don't pull super tight when I do that. I just kind of want to mimic the natural size of the stitch. I cut it fairly close, like that. But on the right side, or the side that'll be showing, you can't really tell, can you? You get a small bump on the side that will not be showing, but on the other side, it's not noticeable. When I go to wear my hat, you might be able to tell a little bit, but I also haven't blocked this. So once I block it out, it won't be noticeable at all. And there you have it. That's how you knit this basic ribbed hat pattern. I hope you guys really enjoyed this pattern. I have found it to be a real staple. I made about 5 or 6 of them over Christmas and gifted them, and I've been wearing a few of them around. This has got to be one of my favorite patterns of all time that I've made. I think it's so classic. I really love the wide brim, even though you don't have to do that wide of a brim. Either way, I hope you guys found this video helpful and easy to follow, and I hope you enjoy this pattern as much as I do. Thanks so much for watching. Please click the like button and subscribe if you want to see more videos from me.